Alright, this is the last presentation for this module. We're going to talk about solving equations involving two or more steps. Our procedure to solve any linear equation involves the following steps. The first thing we want to do is distribute to clear the parentheses. We are going to simplify each side of the equation by combining like terms. Please note that these first two steps are not actually solving steps. They are actually going to be our simplifying expression steps. So we want to simplify the left side and then simplify the right side as much as possible. Then we get into our solving steps. We are going to move all variables to one side and constants to the other using addition or subtraction. Finally, we want to divide by both sides by the coefficient. Last step, check your solution by plugging the result back into the original equation. All right, let's go ahead and look at some examples. If we start with example A, we have 5m plus 1 equals 16. So we do not have any parentheses, and we cannot simplify either side. There are no like terms to combine. So we're going to go ahead and proceed to our solving steps. So the first thing we want to do is we want to get all variables on one side and all constants on the other. All of my variables are already on the left, so I want to move my constants to the right. In order to do that, to get rid of plus 1, I'm going to subtract 1. If we do this on the left, we get 5m. My 1's cancel. On the right, we get 16 minus 1 is 15. I can divide by 5 to get m by itself, and we get m equals 3. Okay, let's try a similar example. Let's look at B. This one we're going to have to deal with the negatives, but again, this is going to be basically the same idea. Again, I cannot simplify either side. There's no parentheses, there's no like terms that can be combined. So I'm going to start by moving my constants to the right. We want to get rid of minus 9, so I'm going to add 9 to both sides. On the left, we get negative 10z. My 9's cancel. On the right, we get 11 plus 9 is 20. Finally, we want to divide by the coefficient, so I'm going to divide by negative 10. And we get z equals negative 2. Okay, so now let's look at some examples where we have variables and constants on both sides. So example C, we have 2x minus 2 equals 5x minus 11. Now, I'm going to show you two ways to do this. And then after that, you can go ahead and make your decision as far as what you want to do. So for this problem, I'm going to start by moving all of my variables to the left, meaning I want to subtract 5x. If we do this, we end up with 2x minus 5x equals negative 3x. Remember, we're going to subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. If we move all of our variables to the left, I want to move all of my constants to the right. It's important that you have your variables and your constants on opposite sides of the equation. So on the left, we end up with negative 3x. My 2's cancel. Negative 11 plus 2 is negative 9. I can then divide by negative 3. On the left, my 3's and my negatives cancel, and I'm left with x equals negative 9 divided by negative 3. My negatives cancel, and I am left with x equals 3. So this is the first method that you can use in order to solve this. When it comes to equations, I kind of put people in two categories. There are people that always like their variables on the left. There are also people that always like to move terms so that their variables are positive. So we can do this as well. Let's go back to the original problem. Just to show you that it doesn't matter. So the other thing I could do is, instead of moving the 5x to the left, I can move the 2x to the right. If we do this, my 2x's cancel on the left, leaving me with negative 2. On the right, we get 5x minus 2x equals 3x minus 11. From here, I can add 11 to both sides. We get 9 equals 3x. My 11's cancel, and then I can divide by 3. And note that no matter what we do, we still get the same answer. So if you struggle to solve it going one direction, try going the other direction. Let's try one more example. We have 3p minus 2 equals p minus 6. So for this one, whether we want to move our variables to the left or we want our variables to be positive, it's going to be the same thing. So I'm going to subtract p from both sides. On the left, we get 2p minus 2. On the right, my p's cancel, and I'm left with negative 6. Since my variables are on the left, I want to move my constants to the right, so I'm going to move my plus. I'm going to get rid of my minus 2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And we get 2p equals negative 4. Negative 6 plus 2, we have different signs. We're going to subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. And finally, we want to divide by 2. On the left, my 2's cancel, leaving me with just p. Negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So these are some basic examples. Let's go ahead and bring in some of our other steps. The first thing that we're going to look at is distributing. So, if we look at example E, we have negative 12 equals 4 times y minus 1. First thing we're going to do is we want to clear the parentheses, so we are going to distribute. We get negative 12 equals 4 times y is 4y. 4 times minus 1 is minus 4. To get our next step is we want to go ahead and get our y term by itself. We have all of our variables on the right, so I'm going to move all of my constants to the left. I'm going to add 4. Negative 12 plus 4, we have different signs, so we are going to subtract. Keep the sign of the larger number. We get negative 8 equals 4y. And then I can divide by 4. We get negative 2 equals y. All right, let's try one more. We have 6 times t minus 2 equals 18. Same thing, we're going to go ahead and distribute. We get 6t (6 times minus 2 is minus 12) equals 18. I have all of my variables on the left, so I want to move all of my constants to the right. We can add 12 to both sides. 18 plus 12 is 30. Divide both sides by 6, and we get t equals 5. So there are some problems involving distribution. Finally, our last set, let's bring in step 2 as well. So this one is going to involve all of our solving steps. We'll start with example G. Example G, we have 8 plus 5 times m plus 2 equals 6 plus 2m. So first thing we're going to do is we want to distribute to clear the parentheses. I want to distribute the 5. If we distribute the 5, we get, I'm going to bring down my 8. We get 5 times m is 5m. 5 times 2 is 10. Right side stays the same. From here, I can combine my like terms. We are going to add. Remember that we are not changing to the other side of the equation, so we just combine them. 8 and 10 combine to give me 18. Plus 5m, and my right side of the equation will stay the same. From here, we can go ahead and move all of our variables to one side and all of our constants to the other. I'm going to move all of my variables to the left. I'm going to subtract 2m from both sides. We get 18 plus 3m equals 6. and my 2 m's cancel. Since all of my variables are on the left, I want to move all of my constants to the right. So I'm going to subtract 18 from both sides. On the left, my 18's cancel. I am left with 3m. On the right, 6 and negative 18, we have different signs, so we are going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. I can then divide both sides by 3, and I am left with m equals -4. All right, let's try example H now. Example H, we have 6 minus 2n equals 14 plus 4 times n minus 5. So we start by distributing. Left side stays the same, we can't do anything there. On the right side, we get 14 plus 4n minus 4 times 5 is 20. We can combine terms on our left side. I can combine the 14 and the -20. We get 6 minus 2n equals 14 and -20. When we combine that, we get -6. We have different signs, so we are going to subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. From here, again, it doesn't matter which way you move the variables and the coefficients. I'm going to go ahead and make them positive. So I'm going to add 2n to both sides. We get 6, my 2n's cancel, equals -6 plus 6n. Since all of my variables are on the right, I'm going to move my constants to the left. To get rid of -6, I want to add 6. And we get 12 equals my -6 and +6 cancel, and we're left with 6n. Finally, I want to divide by 6, and we get 2 equals my 6's cancel, and we're left with n. Okay, for this one, I also want to do the check step just to show you what it involves. So for our check step, we're going to plug 2 in for our n's in our original equation. So if we do that, we get 6 minus 2 times 2 equals 14 plus 4 times 2 minus 5. Wherever we see n, we're going to plug in 2. Okay, if we go ahead and do this now, we want to go ahead and simplify. Now, when I check my solutions, I don't use the distributive rule, because if I distributed wrong to begin with, there's a good chance I'm going to distribute wrong again. So I like to just do straight order of operations. So the first thing I want to do is I want to simplify inside parentheses. And by that, I want to simplify my 2 minus 5. 2 minus 5, we do have different signs, so we are going to subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. We get -3. I can do my multiplication. We get 6 minus 2 times 2 is 4 equals 14. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. And finally, 6 minus 4 is 2. 14 minus 12 is 2. This checks out, so our solution is n equals 2. That takes care of solving equations.